This week, Google, Amazon, they reported their earnings. And today also the market is red the last time that I checked. Now, for this and other stories, we are going to discuss about stocks and crypto. And to help us look into these things and what the market holds for us in the future, I have my trusted money coach, Coach Blooming. Help me welcome Blooming, who has also a YouTube channel that I like to go to on crypto and money market matters.
Thank you so much, buddy. I mean, a lot of exciting news has been going on in the crypto space, and I just can't wait to discuss what has been happening in the crypto market this week. So let's get started.
Let's get started. So let's go right into. So as you can see here, the market is largely, the equities market is largely red. You can see that the S&P 500 is currently 0.98% down. And the VIX, like we have always said on this channel, is actually up. And you see that NVIDIA is actually down as well. And you see that Bitcoin is 0.85% percent up compared to the US dollar. And top technology companies such as Microsoft, Amazon, which we will talk more about in terms of their earnings, they are down. Now, quickly to just look into how this S&P 500 index, which is a group of the top 500 companies that are publicly listed in the US, has done this past week. You can see that this week has been very volatile, right? We opened the week at around this level here, and you see that on the 4th of February, it really ripped up, and I thought, well, the S&P 500, the equities market had broadened its gains. Only on the 7th of February, which is today, to see the market being spooked. And we'll talk more about the economic data that we believe might have caused the market to drop. Now, Buddy, what do you make of these current market conditions that the equities market is down and um, the VIX is up, as we have observed? What do you think has been the key issue at the back of this?
So I think last week I did mention that Kramer
Yes.
mentioned that we need to buy Bitcoin, that I own some Bitcoin, and you should also own some Bitcoin. And I want to believe that maybe Kramer is the one that spooked the market, okay? That's
Invest
my
Kramer.
belief. Yeah, invest Kramer because anytime Kramer is bullish about the market or about any asset, there's always an inverse relationship or an inverse correlation with that conversation. So, but jokes aside, think what we're just seeing is just normal. Whether the market goes up or down and it takes a breather on a Friday because of one economic data that just came out, to me, it's a nothing burger. I still strongly believe that this year is going to be an amazing year in terms of how
Mhm.
the market is going to do. For example, we saw how Amazon, Google, or Alphabet reported this week. Again, a lot of times investors, we expect that these companies, they just outperform. And even when they do amazing things, we still expect them to do more than that. And because
Yes.
of that, again, short-term investors or short-term traders, they just start selling out of it. Again, I'm not really concerned about if the market is red on a Friday like this. To me, I'm just using this as a buying opportunity. Right after this podcast today, I'm definitely going to be picking up some stocks because I believe in the long-term thesis of the US market. Again, I'm betting that the US market is going to do well generally. I know one of the things that also happened was about the whole tariff thing. But again, these are just short-term fluctuations that are happening in the market, and I won't be discouraged because of the market being down on a Friday. So that's my take on this.
That's fantastic. And you would still buy if the market will still be red at that time.
Yes,
Now,
I'm even excited that it's red.
fantastic. And I think something that we always like to talk about, these are two friends who are talking about personal finance, investing, and this should not be taken as investment or trading advice. Whatever we say here should be taken as educational content. Now, I'm going to move on to the earnings of Amazon and Google so that we can just share some insights in what we think about those earnings. On the screen here, you can see that these are the earnings summary for Amazon for Q4 2024, thanks to Alpha Street. That's where I got this information from. You can see that Amazon, they actually had net income of 20 billion and their net sales was 887.8 billion with a B, and their operating income was 21.2, and you can see most of this. Now, I want to hear your take on Amazon, and also in particular, do you think at this point Amazon is a good buy at this level? For me, I think I would like to see it retrace, even pull back down, maybe 20-30% down at this level. But I still believe Amazon is still bringing the bacon back home to America and to the
Right.
shareholders because they are still doing really, really well.
Yeah. So what's my take on this? Personally, the way that I try to decide if I want to buy this company, if I want to invest in this company, I just ask myself some simple questions. Can I live without this product? Is this business changing the way that I live and I do business? If the answer is yes, and I believe in the leadership, and I believe that Amazon has a strong moat, to me, I just DCA. Because why?
Yes.
Many a times I've allowed my emotions to have a
Mm-hmm.
greater part of my investing decision. And just historically, I just prefer to DCA, especially on a red day like this. If I
Mm-hmm.
believe in the long-term thesis for Amazon, which I do, then I will buy. I don't own any shares of Amazon, but I'm just saying that, hey, if you're a long-term investor in tech or in Amazon, this is a nothing burger. Amazon is not going anywhere, meaning that this is one of the finest companies in the US.
Yes.
So if I know that again, if I need to buy anything, I just go on Amazon. I don't even consider any other website.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even consider it. So if I know that Amazon has such a strong moat,
Mm-hmm.
then I just buy. I just did this year because most times when I start waiting too long, I still end up buying at a higher price. So, but
Mm-hmm.
that's just my own personal take on this. In terms
Definitely.
of operating revenue going up, net sales, again, these are just short-term metric. I still
Quarterly,
believe
yes.
in yes, I still believe in the overall long-term thesis for Amazon. So yeah, that's my take on this.
That's fantastic. And next we have Alphabet, Google Alphabet. And for me, my strategy, I'm mostly on the core position in the exchange traded funds that track the S&P 500. But in
Mhm.
terms of individual companies, I like them to drop quite significantly, 30-40% below my intrinsic valuation. So that means I have to wait. But for the ETFs that track the S&P 500, I dollar cost average. In other words, if on a red day, I like to just average whether I buy 3, 4, 5 shares, that's it. And I trade the VIX as well. So I take the profits and average down on the exchange traded funds and I have a long-term position. Now, I do deep dive analysis, and you can see here that Alphabet, they had a bit actually in terms of their profit estimates. And you can see that here they had a revenue of 96.5 billion, which was up 12%. And you can see that their GAAP earnings per share was 31% beat, and operating income, it went up by 31%. What this means is that this is a compounding growth machine. But surprisingly, the stock is down.
It's
People
down.
overreacted. So what do you see? What's your take
Okay.
on Google again?
Again, the market can be very irrational in the short term. Like
Yes.
this is a juggernaut. We go on YouTube, we use Google products. These are products that are so interwoven into our everyday lives that I just believe that these companies are not going anywhere, meaning that they have such a strong moat. And again, if you believe in the long-term thesis of this corporation, on red days like this, I just buy. Because what's the alternative? If you don't go on YouTube, where else are you gonna go to? If you don't go on Google, maybe we can start talking about maybe X and OpenAI, but for now,
Yeah. Yeah.
they are still a juggernaut. Google is still a juggernaut. Amazon
Yeah.
is still a juggernaut, and I just believe that they are still going to be functional and still be beating, I mean, investors' expectation over the near term. So that's just my own personal belief in that, because when I look, the last time that I looked at the stock price for Google, I think it was around 180 something. I'm like, they just reported and the market is selling the stock. You
Yes,
like, what else are you expecting them to do? But that's when investors, they have such a high expectation for a particular company, and even when they beat, it's not enough. We've seen
yes,
that play over and over, the same thing for Nvidia,
over and over
meaning that
again.
yes, they will report a fantastic product, fantastic earnings, and the next day you're seeing the same stock in the red. So in the short term, most investors or traders, they tend to be rational. But if you're a long-term investor, you stay invested. Anytime the market gives us a red day like this, you buy, you're gonna be happy you did in the next 5, 10 years. So that's my own take on this.
That's fantastic. And before I move on, you can also see that Google, in terms of the revenue by geography, it is across the world. You see that
Yep.
13% is from the US, but other Americas, 11%,
Mhm.
Africa, Pacific, Asia, and other areas, they also contribute about almost 21% of the revenue.
Mhm.
So it's really global in nature. Now, one other thing that tends to move the market, like today I was trading the VIX and I was just waiting for the monetary policy report that was dropped. And guess what happened? It spiked up and the market dropped. This is something that I use in terms of my trading strategy. Now, you will see that most of the economic data, it came out positive. You see that the S&P global manufacturing, it expanded. Any reading that is above 50.0, it means that particular sector expanded. And now in terms of the job openings, actually there were less job openings um, in this week compared to the previous week. So that was a good thing. More people are going back to work, and you see that the ADP employment numbers, they were also great. There were other additions in this case in terms of people who were working in the non-farm employment. Now, in terms of the initial jobless claims, right, compared to last week, there was a jump. You can see the previous week it was 208,000, but now it's 219,000. That means less people were, in this case, more people claimed unemployment on Thursday this week. So the key thing is to try and interpret and extrapolate what this means for me. What this means, in my view, the US economy is still strong, right? You can see that unemployment rate, it dropped. Actually, it was 4%, right? And usually the target rate for the employment, because the Fed, that is the institution that is mandated to do the dual balancing of target employment rate to balance the relationship between unemployment and monetary policy demand supply, right? In this case,
Mhm.
unemployment, in this case, it dropped by 0.1%, which is good. It means more people overall, when you look at year on year, right? It dropped. But on the short term, sometimes it goes up in leaps and bounds. But when I look at the trend, I like to look at maybe like a seasonally adjusted average. In other words, that's a longer term period rather than just looking at this. But the US economy is robust. Now, next week, the market might be volatile because whenever Jerome Powell speaks, the market frets. So Jerome Powell is going to be testifying at the Congress on Tuesday next week. So I'm hoping that the VIX is going to drop today or on Monday to my buy level so that I can kind of, trade the VIX. But core CPI, which is other key economic data that might move the market, is also going to be released next week. So we're going to be watching those. And the cycle repeats again, initial jobless claims. So these are some things to look at. Now, I'm going to let my colleague here to jump in and give us an update on the crypto. But please make sure you chime in if you have some insights that you want to share about the economic data.
Yeah, so I mean, the economic data in simple terms is just telling me that the US economy is strong. Again, I like to look at the tone at the top. When there's a strong leadership, when the people at the helm of affairs are business people, business-minded people, these are leaders that are pro-business. It just tells me that they are going to put systems in place or policies in place that are going to further the expansion of the market. In the short term, I expect volatility, but over a long period of time, again, I still expect that we're going to see a strong 2025. But that said, what has been going on in crypto this week? It's been exciting, right from MicroStrategy changing the name from MicroStrategy to Strategy, and from more institutional adoption with what is going on with the crypto czar, David Sachs. A lot of exciting things going on, including crypto or Bitcoin price prediction for 2030. A lot of exciting things that have happening in crypto, and let's jump into what has been going on. So I'm just going to so what what has been going on in crypto this week? Again, a lot of exciting news. Number one, Bitcoin treasury adoption is growing. What do I mean by this? More companies are adding Bitcoin on their balance sheet. We can see Simpler Scientific, Matador, Genius Group, Bitfarm. If we look at just the numbers here, we can see that they are increasing their number of Bitcoin. The total of Bitcoin that they own on their balance sheet is increasing. What does this mean as an investor, or why does this even matter? It just means that more companies are adopting Bitcoin. And this is no longer strange to have or to hold Bitcoin on your balance sheet. And the more institutions or the more corporations hold Bitcoin on their balance sheet, this literally strengthens the thesis for Bitcoin, especially the role of Bitcoin in finance. Again, this is a very bullish sign. One of the other exciting thing that happened this week, MicroStrategy is no longer called MicroStrategy. Now it's just called Strategy. So, and one of the reasons I was listening to the earnings call, I think it was on Wednesday, and one of the things that Sailor said was that, hey, we're trying to refocus or rebrand into Bitcoin because now MicroStrategy or Strategy is now known as the largest and the world's biggest Bitcoin treasury company. So it's normal for them to change their logo and just reposition the company as a Bitcoin treasury company. Again, even apart from that, we continue to see that Strategy is literally the largest Bitcoin holder in terms of companies. Number two, it's also an institutional leader in the adoption for Bitcoin. What do I mean by this? Just, I think during the earnings call, MicroStrategy or Sailor was just comparing the performance of MSTR, that's my MicroStrategy compared to the S&P 500 and even the Max 7. Just on this chart, you can see that over the past, since 2020, when MicroStrategy started adding Bitcoin to their balance sheet, we can see their rate of return over the past 5 years, over 2007%. This is amazing if you compare that to the Bitcoin. Bitcoin was just 711. The S&P 500 was just a little bit over 80%, Nasdaq 79%. Again, it's important to see how important Bitcoin is the moment a company starts adopting Bitcoin onto their balance sheet. Even
So
apart from
a
that,
quick
yes.
a quick comment, and there I see something that is interesting. Again, this is
Mhm.
not investment advice. My colleague and I, like we said, we are saying this is not to say you should be into Bitcoin. It's us just
Mhm.
looking at the data, the story. But something interesting there, it means MicroStrategy, if you had just bought the shares for MicroStrategy,
Yep,
compared to someone who bought NVIDIA shares, someone would have made more money
more.
actually for I think almost three times more, two times
Yeah,
more
yeah.
on MicroStrategy. But again, past performance does not necessarily support to say this is what is
Future.
going to
Yeah,
happen again. But again,
yes,
this is something that is an interesting story. And
yeah,
I'm looking forward to your next slides, buddy. Thank you for
yeah.
sharing.
And this is very, very important because this continues to further the thesis for Bitcoin. This is not just an asset that you just buy. This is a solid store of value, meaning that this is where you can just park your money and let the market just do its own thing. Again, I always like to look at what the data is telling me. Now, if I look at the historical performance of MSTR since it started pivoting into Bitcoin, again, the returns has been amazing. I shared the same slide last week that if we look at the 5-year performance for MSTR, today, as of this
Crazy.
screenshot, $341. But just February 2020, this same
Wow.
stock was about $15. So for people that believe in Bitcoin, and this is just the beginning, we've not even, I mean, a lot of institution, a lot of sovereign wealth are not even pivoting into Bitcoin yet. Now
Mhm.
imagine when they allocate 1%, 2%, 5%, 7%, 10%. We had this conversation, I think the same thing last week when Larry Fink was saying that, hey, what he was having this conversation with some investors in Saudi, and they were saying, hey, what if we invest 2% of our wealth into this or 5%? Bitcoin can go as high as 500,000, 600,000, 700,000 per coin. Again, when we look at great money managers and they're saying that this is just a remarkable asset to just allocate some percentage of our wealth into, I like to listen. One of the other amazing thing that happened, Meta Planet. This is also another publicly listed company in Japan. Again, they started pivoting into Bitcoin and their goal is to own 21,000 Bitcoin. Again, what is going to be the result of this? They started buying Bitcoin
More demands.
2020, yes, 2024.
Mhm.
They started adding Bitcoin to their balance sheet. And we can see on this chart, they started from 40 million in terms of the trading for this particular stock. And look at how it has grown in just 10 months, meaning that investors are really realizing that Bitcoin has its own place in the corporate finance. And I'm not saying that you should go buy the stock of MetaPlanet. I'm just painting the stories of institutions that started pivoting into Bitcoin and was seeing how their stock is performing over a long period of time. Again,
Mhm.
they just started 2024. This is just 2025. They've only been in this for 10 months, and we can see how their stock has already grown. This again is telling us the power of Bitcoin. One of the other things that happened this week, BlackRock and Strategy, again, these two powerhouses. BlackRock this week increased their MSTR shares percentage to about 5%, meaning that BlackRock owns 5% of MicroStrategy. Why would BlackRock own 5% of this stock if they don't believe in the long-term thesis for Bitcoin? Again, I like to study this big money managers and whatever they're doing, I just copy. Again, MicroStrategy is just a simple way to get exposure into Bitcoin without necessarily owning the underlying asset, meaning that without necessarily owning Bitcoin. Why does this matter? BlackRock asset under management is over $10 trillion. Now imagine them buying Bitcoin, having their own Bitcoin ETF. Again, this just means that the adoption or the demand for Bitcoin is increasing. And if the supply is fixed and the demand is increasing, all things being equal, I expect that the price is going to trend upward. One of
Quick
the other
question,
things,
coach.
yes,
Quick question, coach. So are you still i- holding like MicroStrategy shares that you have? Like just
yes,
to have full disclosure, I just thought that,
yes,
at some
yes.
point you
I
did.
own I own Bitcoin, I own MicroStrategy because why?
Hmm.
I need to play in both.
Hmm.
I believe in Bitcoin, but I also believe in corporations, institutions owning part of Bitcoin and
Yeah.
just having that on their balance sheet. I think the same thing. Tesla too owns some Bitcoin. I own some Tesla too. Again,
And
what?
is
Mhm.
it like because for me I sold all my crypto, right? And I'm kind of like thinking from this point of view that maybe in the future I might consider having a small allocation again. I just had to take some profits and
Yes.
use the money, spend the money. Now,
Yeah.
in
Mhm.
terms of the is it a big part of your portfolio, or you are more into equities and less into crypto, or you what do you mind sharing? And you don't have to share if you're not
No, so
comfortable.
like I can give you in terms of the percentage. So in
Percentages for
terms,
sure.
yeah. So in terms of our crypto holding, it at least 25% of our net
Hmm.
worth, 25%.
Hmm.
So, and again, these numbers or these percentages is going to change over time depending on
Yes.
how the market performs. But
Hmm.
in the long run, I play in both stocks and crypto. And when I say crypto,
75%. Oh,
it's
wow,
still
that's big risk. Yeah,
yeah. But
tolerance.
again, it's just me taking some time to understand the space. The moment you understand Bitcoin and how powerful this thing is, it's a no-brainer. It's just so important to allocate again a certain portion of our wealth into Bitcoin because why? It's a store of value. The moment you understand that when the government keeps printing money, it devalues the currency that we own. We don't even own the currency. It devalues the currency that we hold. And
Yes.
if I don't want to keep losing my purchasing power, then I buy something that has a better store of
That
value, which
appreciates
is,
in value.
yes,
Mhm.
which is Bitcoin. So again, I'm not saying that you should go all out and buy Bitcoin, even if it's just getting some exposure into the Bitcoin ETF or into MicroStrategy, that's fine. But again, I own some shares of MicroStrategy. I own some Bitcoin. I own Tesla. I mean, these are just plays that I'm comfortable just playing in. Is it risky? Yes, but I'm more than happy to take on the risk. Why? I've taken a lot of time to study these things, and because of that, I'm comfortable with it. Again, Ethereum is the number two biggest crypto based on market cap, and BlackRock is quietly just acquiring
So,
Ethereum.
wow.
I'm telling you, the fact that Ethereum has not even gone back to the all-time highs based on the last all-time high in the previous bull cycle is just telling me that the whales are quietly acquiring this. It's not just BlackRock alone, but even Trump organization. Again, they keep acquiring this thing because why? At some point, the value is going to go up. Again, not saying that you should buy Ethereum. I own some Ethereum too. But anytime I see Bitcoin, Ethereum, these are just some of the best and the finest cryptos that are here to stay and they are not going anywhere. We already have the Bitcoin, Ethereum, Bitcoin, and also Ethereum ETFs. So again, these are just very, very bullish sign. I think ARK Invest, they released their big ideas for 2025. But one of the amazing things that Taffy has been saying for the longest time, I think since 2015, is that the base case, meaning that, okay, maybe if the market just does this thing usually, one Bitcoin can be as high as $710,000 by 2030. The bear case, 300,000. In the bull case, 1.5 million. But take this with a grain of salt because why? These are just prediction. You should not believe everything you hear on the internet. But I'm just saying that these are people that have been so bullish on Bitcoin even before Bitcoin was $3,000 or $20,000 or even the $100,000 threshold. Again, these are just asset managers that believe in the long-term thesis for this. Again, I'm not saying that this is what is going to happen. I'm just
Mhm.
sharing with you that there are institutions that believe in the thesis for
That's something
Bitcoin.
that we're going to have to.
So before we jump into the next one, I think one of the other things that I also want to mention is that the U.S. administration is also pro crypto. We know David Sachs, the crypto czar, and I'm just going to play a very short
That's
video
something that we're
from
going to have
him.
to decide.
David, recast for us, if you will, the value of Bitcoin specifically, cryptocurrency and blockchain technology in general. As we're now in the Trump administration era, we're in the back half of the 2020s. Back 5 years ago plus, there was talks about using it as a means of buying things. Now it's more about the store of value and the way perhaps hedge against inflation in various currencies. What do you see as the real value and the reason why the United States government should be paying so much attention to it?
Well, I think there's a few different aspects here when you're talking about digital aspects. So first of all, you got Bitcoin. It was the first digital currency, and it's the original. It's the strongest one. In the parlance of the industry, it's the most Lindy, meaning it's been around for over a dozen years now. No one's ever hacked it. No one's ever cracked the security around it. And so it is an excellent store of value. So that would be point number one. Bitcoin is run on, as you know, a blockchain. It's basically a distributed ledger, which is essentially a form of decentralized computing. And that platform can be used to create a lot of other types of products. And so that would be sort of technology area number two, is all the innovation that can be built on top of blockchains. And then
Again, This is very interesting and a very bullish sign for not just crypto, but even AI in general. It's just like when internet came into existence in the 1990s, a lot of applications has been built on the internet. I'm sure that in the early 2000s, none of us thought that we could just buy something on the internet. No, I can't put my credit card on any
Yeah.
website. But now it's so normal. The same thing with
Yeah.
crypto. A lot of people are still skeptics, but again, Bitcoin is the hardest form of money. And
Yeah.
it has stayed valuable for the past 15 years, and I don't think that it's going to stop. I just saw this on the internet 20
Mhm.
2017, if I wanted to buy a house of maybe $350,000 or I mean, just I would need about 24 Bitcoin. In
Mhm.
2021, I would need about 9. In
Mhm.
2025, I'm going to need about 4. In 2030, maybe I'm going to need zero
Yes.
point 0.1 or zero point 0.2 or zero point 0.3.
Yes.
Again, this is the long-term thesis for Bitcoin. It's an excellent store of value, and smart investors will choose Bitcoin over real estate. I'm not saying you shouldn't buy real estate. Please do, but I'm just saying that as a smart investor, have some allocation into Bitcoin. And the last way that I'm gonna just end today's conversation is that hey, Bitcoin can go as high as 150,000 or 200,000 in this crypto bull run this 2025. Ethereum could go above $10,000. And we go into the alt season when everything just goes parabolic. But even with that, we're saying that institutions are buying. The next 6 to 8 months, which is 2025, is going to be life changing. And again, what I've mostly seen is that when you sell, that is when crypto will just go all the way up. But when you're still holding, it feels as if nothing is happening. Like, oh my God, I've been holding this Bitcoin for
Yeah.
the past 4 or 5 years. Nothing has been happening. Or I've been holding Ethereum or Cardano or Solana or whatever coin that you're into. And the moment you then decide to buy, it's as if the universe is against you and it just nosedives. But all I'm just saying is that if we just position ourselves into this new asset class, we're going to be rewarded handsomely. And I always like to say that for people that
Mhm.
already invested in crypto, don't feel as if you're still broke. You're only pre-rich, meaning that you're getting ready to be rich. So you're not broke, you're just getting ready to be super, 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 super wealthy or super, super rich. And again, crypto is just a space that everybody should be part of. Like, I'm very excited about what Bitcoin is going to evolve into. I
Mm.
still remain very bullish. As people still think that in 2030, this is going to go as high as $1.5 billion. Larry Fink thinks that this could go as high as $700,000. Again, if we don't reach those thresholds, even if it's $300,000 or $500,000, that is still so much better than the price that we are today. I was just joking that Kramer again said we should own Bitcoin. And this week, Bitcoin went as low as $91,000. So I don't think I'll be listening to Kramer. Or maybe now I'm going to be hoping and expecting that Kramer is going to go negative on a stock that I really want to own or on a coin that I really want to own. But in the long run, I strongly believe that we're going to be handsomely rewarded for those that are strategically positioned in crypto. Again, we are going into a bullish season, into a very, very exciting moment in 2025. And please take this seriously. Put some money, but only invest what you can afford to lose. Don't put your life savings into crypto. As
Yes.
exciting as this thing is, you can also lose your money. But if you have any question, always reach out to Isaac, reach out to me, go on our YouTube channels. We have tons of tutorials. And if you have not yet subscribed, what else are you waiting for? Really, what else are you
Yes.
waiting for? Hit the subscribe button, and we're always excited to bring you what has been going on in the market. So over to you, Coach Isaac.
Fantastic. I think I was thinking like you said you see the market going up. I wanted to kind of like play the bearish
Yes.
advocate that I like to be, because I think when I'm investing, I like to understand that being successful in investing is a function of partly balancing the potential gain versus the potential risk.
Losses.
So if you
Yes.
gain more than you lose, then that's good. But
Mhm.
let's say in all those scenarios, in what I see in this case is that if inflation starts to rear its ugly head and starts to spike up, we may potentially see the Fed hiking the interest rates, which might potentially spook the equities market, seeing most stocks dropping. So
Yeah.
what am I doing to do that? In terms of my strategy, I like to kind of have a bit of cash to buy fundamentally strong companies in addition to the equities position that tracks the S&P 500. That's just me in terms of my strategy. Now,
Mhm.
I'm also looking at other fundamentally strong companies that I am just doing research, analyzing, so that if they miss earnings or there is an external shock, I will get in.
Yes.
And in conclusion, from my part, Coach Blooming, I think the issue of the tariff has just been parked. In
For 30 days.
less than 30 days, I think is going to most likely going to play out again. So I see that as potentially bringing in elevated volatility in the equities market. But usually how I've observed this story play out is that when there's a sell-off in the equities market, people tend to fly to go to gold positions, but also to cash, and hence mostly US dollar price might actually go up. In that regard, that might be another strategy for me. If I had a bit of savings, I would kind of like keep them in US dollars. This is not investment advice, but this is just me thinking in terms of the potential downside risk. Now, again, this might be the opposite because I cannot predict the market confidently to say this is exactly what is going to happen. I'm not sure if that's going to happen because there are a lot of unknowns. And my role really trying to manage our small family portfolio is to kind of balance the risk. If I get 30, 40% per year, well, that would be great.
That's good.
And
Yes.
over time, I can compound, that. What are your, your
So,
outlook?
so in terms of either it's tariff or inflation or
Mhm.
maybe a black swan event, again, I look at the leadership.
Yes.
If the leadership is competent,
In the
they,
US.
yes,
Mhm.
they tend to know how to weather the storm well. If
Mhm.
the leadership is just shaky or we don't have an effective leader, permeates throughout their whole economy. But again, I look at the US cabinet, that is such a strong cabinet, pro crypto, pro business. They've run successful businesses before. Again, I tend to look at how these people have run several businesses before, and they have the track record of producing excellent results.
Yes.
They've been through cycles of black swan event, cycles of recession. Even some of them, we've gone through the bull and the bear seasons, and they came out strong. So whatever is coming, again, I believe in the leadership, and if the leadership is strong, whether it's tariff or inflation or something that I can't even think about, or DeepSeek that happened 2 Mondays ago that nobody was expecting, again, the market will still eventually recover. And if you're a long-term investor, any red day, keep buying.
Yeah.
You're gonna be happy that you did in the next 5 years. So,
I wanted to also make a comment on Canadian economy because I
mhm,
follow Dr. Trevor Tombe, who is a very well-known, economist, and I like his macroeconomic view of the economy. In Canada, currently, the Liberal Party is going through an election season, but in terms of the uncertainty, I'm going to put the indicator that measures the volatility. It has been the highest it has been, right, in
mhm.
Canada because of the political uncertainty. And even though today we added some job numbers, reducing our unemployment rate a little bit, I still see a lot of weakness in the Canadian economy.
Canadian
Now,
market.
I was reading the article that was published by Dr. Tombe to the Hub Canada, and he was projecting that over 600,000 people could lose their jobs if this tariff is used
Is
and
implemented.
is implemented. So I think in terms of my outlook, I'm looking at other potential companies to buy in Canada if this situation happens, because I mean, I'm looking at it as a capitalist to
Mm-hmm.
say, you know, this uncertainty, if indeed these tariffs are levied over the short to medium term, there might be these maybe drops in these individual companies owing to that uncertainty, but over the long term, companies will find other markets as long
Yes.
as they have good leadership, they have fundamentals, a strong balance sheet. I don't like to invest in companies that have a lot of debt versus their free cash flows. So
Yes.
I am potentially looking at things in a 360-degree fashion. If the
Yeah.
tariffs are levied, I'm going to be going big on Canadian equities market for the companies that I'm researching on. If it
Yes.
doesn't, I'm going to continue playing in the US. So that's
Mm-hmm.
something that I just wanted to share out there to say, look, I want to see every challenge, to see opportunities in
Opportunities. Yeah.
uncertainty. I think there's a Chinese adage that the other inverse of an opportunity is.
Yes. It's risk opportunity, but it's the same coin, the same circle or the same shape, but risk is the same thing as opportunity.
And why do we say so? Because again and again, my observation is that generally people, investors, traders, investors, we are also emotional. So we saw what happened with the DeepSeek saga. Now I saw Nvidia was trading almost at $130 a share, but
Yeah.
it went down as low as I think
116,
117,
115.
116,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
But the challenge with investing is you are trying to anticipate, you know, the future, which is
Right.
unknowable, right?
Mm-hmm.
So at least for me, I like to look at the data and try to remove emotions out of it because at the end of the day, you also want to be diversified and focus on things that have fundamentals. At least that's my thesis.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that I just wanted to mention to say, look, I'm very bullish about the Canadian economy over the medium to long term because
Right.
after this leadership issue is resolved, whether the Conservatives or the Liberals will be in power,
Fine.
at the
Yes.
end of the day, that uncertainty is going to drop. And what usually happens if you make your bets right, like you did
Yeah.
on Tesla in the
Mm-hmm.
aura of uncertainty, when that smoke and uncertainty clears and everybody suddenly realizes that, well, this was an opportunity, it's going to bid prices up. By that time, you are exiting your positions for a
Yeah.
whooping profit. I thought I
Yes.
would just share that.
I
With the
think
audience. Yes.
I think that's very interesting, and that even reminds me of Palantir too.
Oh, yes.
Palantir has
Don't
been
start that.
reaping. I don't even want to talk about it because I started buying in 20s and
112.
now, yeah, I think it
I
went as
saw it.
high as 115 today. And I'm just like, this is just an amazing way to just grow and build wealth over time. People that
Somebody
have
is
been
working for
buying,
you.
yeah. And even I was listening to to Alice Cap just I think it was this week during the earnings call
Yeah.
too. And again, the moment you invest in a company, you need to understand the leadership. If the leadership is strong and competent, you're going to see the results in the performance of the
Yeah.
company. Maybe over the short term, the market might not understand. Just the same way we saw it play out for Tesla, the same way we saw this play out for Palantir, the same way we saw this play out for Nvidia and DeepSeek. Again, the market will always be irrational in the short term. But if you're a long-term investor and you study the company, you study the leadership, that is what gives us the confidence. If we don't study or do our own research, we can be easily swayed. But the moment we take the time to study what is going on, then you don't need somebody to convince you whether to buy the stock or not. Because why? You've done your research. For me personally, I'm not invested in the Canadian market. My first love is still the US market, but I still believe in the Canadian market, like seriously, but I just don't play in it anymore. But again,
Mhm.
I still believe that either it's the US market or the Canadian market. 2025, we are going to be rewarded handsomely. That's my belief. So,
That's
and I
fantastic.
always expect that the market will be in our favor.
Thank you so much. And, you know, I know we can talk and talk because we are so passionate about this, but no, trade and invest wisely, and always remember that the market comes with some risks and opportunity. Don't ever invest or trade the money that you are willing to lose. Until next time, we will see you and have a wonderful week. Thank you and bye-bye again.